We've all seen those uncanny, sometimes kind of funny deepfake videos floating around online. But what if I told you the most dangerous deepfakes aren't the ones we see, they're the ones we hear? Because a voice is a weapon that targets our trust directly.
Just imagine this for a second. Your phone rings. You pick it up, and it's your child or maybe your parent. Their voice is trembling with panic. They're in trouble, they say, and they need money wired right now. The voice is perfect. Every little inflection, every hesitation, it's them. Except it's not. It's a machine.
This terrifying scenario is not just possible, it's happening. And it works because of the incredible power and trust we automatically place in the human voice. It feels like a direct line to our emotions, completely bypassing the skepticism we'd normally have for a suspicious email or a weird photo. So let's be clear about what we're actually talking about here. A deepfake is basically an audio or video forgery made with AI. But the most important word on this slide is hyper-realistic. This technology is now so sophisticated that it's designed to be completely, utterly convincing, to fool not just our eyes and ears, but our deepest gut instincts. And this is really where we get to the heart of the threat. There's a huge difference between video and audio deepfakes. See, making a believable fake video, it's still pretty hard. It takes a ton of data, a lot of computing power, and even then there are often tiny visual glitches you can spot if you look really closely. But audio? Oh, that's a whole different ballgame. It needs way less data, we're talking just a few seconds from a social media video, and the barrier to entry is so much lower. That makes it the perfect, accessible weapon for scammers. So, why are we so vulnerable to a fake voice? Well, psychology has a term for it: truth bias. Our brains are basically hardwired to assume that what we're hearing from a familiar voice is the real deal. It's an evolutionary shortcut that helps us communicate, efficiently. But in the age of AI, that shortcut has become a serious vulnerability that can be exploited. This inherent trust we all have really sets the stage for a much, much bigger problem. So let's zoom out a bit and look at the broader threat these audio deepfakes represent. We're moving beyond just individual scams now to the impact on all of society. And this quote right here, it just nails the bigger picture. When we can no longer trust our own ears, what does that do to society? The real danger is this erosion of our collective trust. I mean, if any piece of audio or video can be faked, how can news organizations or even our court systems ever rely on that kind of evidence again? And let me be clear, this is not some future, far-off problem. This is happening right now, today. So let's look at some real-world examples of scams that are actively being used out there in the wild. Okay, one of the most common playbooks is impersonating authority. A scammer will use a clone voice to pose as, say, a police officer or a tax agent. They create this immense pressure, this urgency, claiming you owe fines or you're part of some criminal investigation. That authoritative, yet somehow familiar-sounding voice is specifically designed to make you panic and act without thinking. Another major angle is, no surprise, your money. Scammers will call, pretending to be from your bank's fraud department. They'll use a calm, professional, AI-generated voice to tell you about a large, suspicious transaction or threaten to freeze your account on the spot. Their one and only goal is to scare you into giving up your passwords or personal information. Okay, I know all of that sounds incredibly alarming. But knowledge is power, right? And there are concrete, simple steps you can take to build a defense against these tactics. The absolute key is to shift from reacting emotionally to responding logically. So here's the plan. It's crucial to have one. First step, just pause. That's it. Scammers need you to panic, so don't. Take a breath. Second, verify. Hang up the phone and call the person or the bank back on a number that you look up yourself. Third, question. Ask a personal question that a scammer couldn't possibly know the answer to, something only the real person would know. And fourth, this one's my favorite, create a verbal password or a secret code word with your family. If a real emergency ever happens, they say the word. If they don't, you know something is very wrong. Protecting ourselves individually is absolutely the first step. But what does this technology really mean for our society in the long run? And that brings us to the much bigger question about the future of digital trust itself. And this data right here really shows that while the threat is universal, our awareness of it, well, it isn't. Our collective understanding is still playing catch up with the tech. You can see here, across Europe, how people perceive the risk of deepfakes varies wildly by age and by country. People in the UK, for example, report a really high level of concern, while people in Sweden report the lowest. It just proves we have a long way to go in building the kind of digital literacy we all need to stay safe.
Because ultimately, this is not just about spotting a clever fake. The challenge that deepfakes present is so much bigger. We're talking about protecting the very foundations of our society, our democratic processes, our cybersecurity, and our fundamental personal rights to privacy and identity.
And all of this leaves us with one final, and I think critical question. As this technology becomes more and more woven into our daily lives, we have to ask ourselves, in a world where anything can be faked, what will trust truly sound like?